Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Legion Lads. I am your host, JR. And today with me, I got Rob and Jose. What's up, guys?
Hello, hello.
Yo,
All right. So, I know it's been a while, guys. We kind of had busy schedules, busy life. Life always happens. Life finds a way to mess things
oh
up.
God.
Yeah, it turns out recording these things weekly is a little bit hard sometimes. So
Yeah.
maybe we should have taken the advice and done these bi-weekly, but we're crazy. And when we want to record, we want to record. So
Exactly.
sometimes there's just a break,
You know,
unprompted, and you know.
we'd have to have a lot of information to do a bi-weekly, right? To do 2 episodes worth of stuff in 1 week or in
No,
2 weeks.
no, no, no. Bi-weekly is in
In
one
two
every
in
two
2 weeks,
weeks.
I mean,
One every
yeah.
2 weeks. Come on, man.
Well,
No,
no,
I know,
he's
I know. I'm talking about like,
bi-weekly is a terrible word because it means both,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, to let everybody know, our locals know, and the surrounding areas in the Fresno area, VetFest is happening again. That's going to be
Woo.
July 13th and July 14th. Signups are up now for the Vet Hall. So go ahead and we'll have the link in the description. Go sign up if you guys want to play. It is going to be um, I'm blanking right now. The
Points
tournament.
So
qualifier.
Yes,
yeah, it's going to be an LVO qualifier.
LVO qualifier. Thank you.
A couple of other notes. If you are not local to Fresno or Clovis, I guarantee the hotel room is cheap. Um, Depending on how many players we have, it may only be a 1 day tournament on Saturday. So would be something you can drive up to, drive home potentially. But we really want it to be a 2 day tournament. If it's not a 2 day tournament, and we'll talk about this more, we're gonna talk about the league a little bit later. Then maybe I just conquer the Sunday and say, hey, Sunday is league championship day, and But Roman's not here, and I haven't asked him yet, so I'm not gonna steal his thunder. So
Well,
I
hopefully,
would hopefully we get a 2 day tournament.
yes. Hopefully, we get a good
Like
turnout.
I want to see 32 people here,
Your
and we
boy
get
here loves a challenge. I love when people
yeah,
come. Let's get it going.
yeah. I mean, that's what I want, right? More
Mhm.
than like if we can start getting like if we can get 25 people here this year, then maybe next year we can get GT status.
That'd be sick.
And GT status, that we get all of a sudden we get the prize wall, we get all the stuff. But the only way that happens is if people show up this year, right? So if you're a local and you're like, I don't really know, it's just another dumb little tournament. No, this matters. Show up, let's get the numbers, and then next year we can make it bigger.
And even if you're not that competitive, just come and hang out with us. Like come and just play and BS with us and just have a good time. It's we don't do this often. It's once a year and it's in Fresno, so it's
Well,
like
and the other thing too that Roman was saying, and I wish he was here today for us to talk about this, but one thing he told me while we were talking is he's like, if we can get enough people there and we can convince maybe the people that run the place that hey, we have enough people to have a little tournament, maybe he can get them another day this year.
yeah.
Right? Maybe we can have 2 tournaments a year instead of just one. So again, it all comes down to locals showing up. And look, if you're local and you're like, I'm kind of new to the game or I'm casual, and you show up and you play JR round one and you lose, guess what? You don't have to play JR the next round. You can play a more casual game the round after that, right? So I want to see
After he
everyone
clubs
there.
his baby seal.
Even Michael. Michael, if I have to put King of the Hill on in the background to get you to show up, I will do it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
please.
So yes, July 13th and 14th. So please sign up if you have any interest in playing. That'd be awesome. Love to see everybody there. And yeah, so July 13th, 14th.
Yeah.
But moving on, congratulations, Rob, who won KubaCon. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I officially am going to LVO. I.
Yeah. So okay, you got the invitation.
Yeah.
Did you win any points?
I don't need points.
But do you get points?
I don't know. I
Okay.
think so, but I don't know. But also, I don't need points. I don't care about points.
Call
Yeah.
LJ right now.
Yeah.
Tell him you want your points.
Because don't you like pass them down or something like that?
No, so the points don't get passed down.
Oh, okay.
They average
Right,
his top 3 or something like that.
So the way see now, so for those of us that need to know, we're gonna go back to our last or a couple podcasts ago and figure this out. But the way it works is depending on the size of the tournament. In this case, KubaCon was an 18-player tournament when it started. So that means that the second place gets so many points and third place gets so many points. I think it's equal to how many people are in the tournament. So like second place gets 18, third place gets 17. Do not quote me on these numbers, but this info is going to get sent to LJ and to Jordan, and they have a nice fancy spreadsheet that will say this is where all the info is. I already gave Tori my Longshanks account, so now I have a Longshanks account. It's not that hard to make, actually. Turns out, like most things on the internet.
I need to
But
do
yeah.
that. I need to get my long strings too. Like, I wonder, is the program really easy to use?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Longshanks is it the aesthetics are more dated.
Mm.
But like aesthetics are like the least important thing we use a website for. Arguably, I think they matter a lot. And I was a little disappointed. And that's kind of why I didn't want to use it before, anyways, is because I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But based on what LJ said I was like, this was almost a month ago now. But whenever we talked to him, it looks fine. The functionality is great. I was pretending to put together like a tournament just to see what it looked like. And I'm like, oh, this is super easy. I just do this, and it's done. I could set up a league in there if I wanted. So the next league will definitely be on Longshanks, so I don't have to worry about all this junk. Today, going through my spreadsheet, trying to fix who's playing who on what round. No, I'm not doing that again.
Well, Nick was right.
Yeah, I already told Nick he was right. Okay, I was
We just need it. We need it on
trepidatious,
file now.
I didn't want to use the new website. I'm like, I like Game Uplink, and now I'm like, boo, Game Uplink, work, dang you. Well, no, I'm sorry.
Game Uplink is pretty though.
It looks great, but I couldn't put my list in this weekend. I had range troopers, so nope. I just put my list name, and that's all they could see.
Oh, they had
issues this weekend too.
Wow.
Well, range troopers are new, and I get that. But if it's anything like EXD, in 3 months, I'm still going to be unable to put my list into Game Uplink.
And they got to program it, right?
Yeah, they have to program it in.
That sucks.
Yeah, so it's like, what are you going to do?
That does suck.
Yeah.
Okay, so 18 players.
18 players.
What did you bring and how did it go?
Okay, so I don't know if this is the most competitive version of this list, but it's the version I wanted to play.
I gotta say, sorry, go ahead.
I'll explain the list and then you give your take.
Yeah.
It's so the core of the list is Palpatine and 3 range troopers. That's the basic premise, which is a very common premise right now amongst Empire players and the Legion Discord, right? Of course, I see anything and I instantly go to Palpatine anyways. So, but I have 3. So I have Palpatine with Burst and Barrier and Anger, not Guidance because I couldn't fit it points wise. 3 range troopers with the DLT, which is the Impact 2, range 5, 2 red. And then I have 3 Naked Storms and then Operative Darth Vader with Force Choke, which is still good, mind you. Actually came super clutch, even though it's 10 points, even though it's not letting you choose the heavy. It was like I honestly think that if I didn't have Choke, I would have been in a significantly worse position multiple times throughout the weekend.
That's a hot take.
And we'll talk. I can talk about that more specifically. And then Force Push, and then seize the initiative so that on the given to your anger turn, he can have an order basically. And so that's the list.
Give it to your anger. Oh, for Op Vader, got it.
For Op Vader, yeah. So you said you had to take now.
Right? No, I was gonna say I like the list. Even though there's 8 acts, you have your linebacker, which is Op Vader, right? You have your range,
the best in the game.
Range for So I was thinking about how would I approach your list. I was just like, oh, if I dive in, Vader's gonna be right there. You know what I mean? So I loved it. I thought it was great.
And you know what? I just when I built it originally, it was kind of like I was playing against Noah or somebody. I think it was Noah. And I'm like, I just want to try, I want to get Vader in. I want to play with range troopers. I was proxying at the time because they weren't out yet. And I want to play Palpatine. I just threw it all together. But I didn't just throw it together to be fair to myself. I knew I can have range troopers to do the range thing. I have Vader to do Vader things, right? And it just really worked out well. And then I played it in another game and it worked well. And so then I decided, I'm going to bring it to this tournament this weekend because I tried a couple different variants of range trooper lists. Last week against Pet, I played 3 Death Troopers, 3 range troopers, and then an officer, and that felt fine. And I won that game, but it was kind of I was missing the shenanigans of command cards. Number 1, I hate not having command cards, and just Vader. He's fun to play. He's really fun to play, even though I'm not the greatest at him. I'm getting better though. This weekend, I was if at LVO I was a 2 out of 10 with Vader, I feel I'm now at like a 5, 6 out of 10 at how good I am at Vader. Right, I am now in the decent at Vader phase. I'm not at the good. I'm no Dave Grant, right? I'm not great, but I'm in the good. No JR either, but it went what?
No. I was gonna say, couple things is why the impact gun over the suppressive one?
So one really, really big reason and one small reason. The really, really big reason is points. It's 9 points cheaper. The average on the dice pools between the two guns.
Cheapers. It's only 3 points cheaper.
3 times 3 is 9.
Oh, you're talking about all three. Got it.
Total.
Yeah,
So in the list it was 9 points cheaper. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then so the dice pool is also kind of similar. So I was like, okay, well, do I drop force barrier and then upgrade the guns in quotes? But the average is the same, but they're more consistent because it's red dice versus white dice. And they don't surge, so those white dice are really not great at all, right? Like surging white dice, I love. Normal white dice, I'm like,
Yeah, played B1s.
Oh well, my stormtroopers rolled nothing but crits all weekend. So even the day against Jose, they shot like twice and they got like 3 crits on one of
the naked shots. Ones always do the most like critical things.
I know. I felt bad almost because I was attacking a tank and I'm like, oh, 3 crits. And the opponent was like, oh, okay. But it's you're more likely to roll a crit than I guess they don't have T10 ones. Anyways, the other reason is because I am scared of armor right now. Armor is pretty big in the meta. And while it doesn't come up every game, when you need it, you're going to be very glad you had it. And I was. I only had 1 game against armor this weekend, and it was a double AA5, but the impact was huge. It meant that round 1, I was able to kill a bus, and that bus had Maul inside.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Yeah. Now, granted, I wasn't able to attack Maul. I wasn't able to like do anything with that, but that's a turn Maul didn't get.
Yep.
And so that's big.
Huge.
Right?
Turn Maul get.
Yeah. So the impact I think is actually pretty big. So yeah, that's why I have those guns.
Okay. Now my next question to you is, what command cards did you take?
Ooh. So I took 1 pips. Clearly, and now you will die. That's why you bring Palpatine.
Yep.
And then between Implacable and Vader's Might, I love Vader's Might. It's an awesome card. I wish I could have it. I brought Implacable because
it's the better one. Yep, the better one.
It's the less situational card. Implacable, it can be anything you want it to be. It can be I'm going to be hyper aggressive with Vader and murder more stuff. It can be I'm going to double force push on turn 6 key positions. It can be whatever you need it to be. So I had that. Then let's talk 3 pips, both of Vader's cards, because I don't need the orders from Palpatine's card.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So, right? I mean, it kind of matters, right? Because
I don't care about order control in this list at all. As long as Vader has an order, I don't really care.
Why is that?
Why? Because I only really on the turns where it's only a Vader order. If Palpatine goes a little early or a little late, it doesn't really matter that much. He should be hiding behind LOS, and all he's really doing is pulling the strings. Like the worst thing that can happen with my order control is it's round 1. I have no range troopers in range, and I pull Palpatine first, and I don't get to do an extra shot with my range troopers a single round. That's the worst case scenario. And the likelihood of that happening is low enough that I'm not worried about it.
So did you ever pull something from your bag during the tournament that you're just like, I wish I didn't pull that? Like it cost you a little bit.
That it cost me? No. Were there times where I was like, oh, I wish I'd pulled a storm so that my range troopers could go later? Of course.
Do you feel like you got punished for it though?
No.
Do you feel like you could have?
No.
I feel like there's a big difference of being punished. Like
I don't think I could have
versus people actually punishing you for it.
I don't think. Okay. Again, except for Vader, and the turns where Vader does not get an order given to him, I don't see a lot of potential punishment for me based off that.
Interesting.
There's nothing. I played that list today. there's nothing that you can do really against it. If he pulls his core, they're not in
Well,
danger. They're just he can
Yeah,
pass. And his range
exactly.
troopers are at 4. Palpatine's hidden, pulling the strings, and Vader's not close enough until he needs to be close enough. That like
That
the worst case scenario I saw with that list today was when he implacabled with Vader and put Vader back in the bag. Then it was a race for the pool. But other than that, that
correct.
list is so order neutral. It's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, that and there you go.
No, I was gonna say that's interesting. That's a hot take in my opinion because like that would be the first thing I do is punish you for your order control. Like I would target your stuff that needs to go when it needs to go because you don't know if you're gonna pull it or not.
It's the
But the
bands.
the thing is like there's not really any again, maybe I haven't played the right game where it would matter. But I
Mhm.
have not had a game where it's like, oh, I need the range troopers right now
Yeah.
because you can't suppress them, right? Normally that's the big thing is it's like, all right, well, I'm going to just kind of point shots at long range and try to suppress this unit. They have Indomitable. So
I
your
mean,
suppression
you
is
can,
meaningless,
but yeah, it's
right? You can, of
yeah.
course. They can get really unlucky. You can get really lucky. It can happen. But if that's your game plan, it's
You
not a good
lost.
one, right? Like and I had somebody this weekend who was constantly using demoralize on range troopers, and I didn't say anything, but I'm like, dude, that's a complete waste.
Mhm.
I have stormtroopers here. Even Palpatine is a better choice to try to suppress than the range troopers. And
Yeah.
he has courage 4, right?
Yeah.
He's an awful choice.
Mhm.
But yeah. But I would say, yeah, it's not order neutral, right? Order control matters. It's not like because I it's not like I don't want order control. When I could get order control, I'd be great. But it's like I'm not in a position where it's like, as long as Vader has an order, I'm happy. And so my
Well,
last 2 command cards then are a little spicy because I've
yeah.
given to your anger, and then I brought pinned down.
Oh,
Yeah. So that is my spicy card, in my opinion. That's the only one I'm spicy. We just lost you, JR, to your
no,
background.
no, I'm serious. Since my
Yeah.
computer's not lighting up, it's funny.
Yeah.
That's actually a really, I actually kind of like it.
So it's kind of like my situational card. Like I think like I never played it this weekend.
Mhm.
I never had to.
Pinned down.
But yeah. But if I'm playing against clones that are trying to do fire support shenanigans, God tier. If I'm
Mhm.
trying to play against CIS where AI might matter, it's a great card. And it works with pulling the strings as well. It works if I can split my fire out, right? I can shoot a range 4 gun, or sorry, their normal range 4 gun and their heavy range 5 gun at 2 different squads. It all works, right?
Yeah.
To send that back. And so if there's ever a situation where I need to do that, I have it. And
Yeah.
frankly, I am not well with how my Vader has been rolling lately. I'm sure Fear and Dead Man is an amazing card, but I'm not super hyped about either of Vader's 2 pips.
To be honest, I agree with you because I feel like you don't need Fear and Dead Man. You just need to bury him. If you bury him correctly, then you don't need it. New ways to
Yeah.
motivate. You don't have any units that you want to do the extra movement with.
No.
But yeah, pin down. I'm impressed. I dig it. Yeah.
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 So it's just a great little card that it's situational. Like there may be times where I don't ever play it and I place, I don't think I'd ever play. There are very few situations where I'd play standing orders over it, but I
Mhm.
still can. If Vader needs an order, he can get it with standing orders, right? It won't be
Yeah.
pretty, but he can get it, right? So
Mhm.
that was kind of my thought process. It's like I'd rather have this situational card because it's good anyways. And there are times where Vader's just sitting behind, doing nothing, and it just works out. So
I once played a TTS game a long time ago, like years ago, and I was playing Shadow Collective, and I had Maul, and I gave him an order, and my opponent played pin down, right? And
mhm.
Maul, this is I think Maul's one pip that I played, so it's only him that had the order.
Yeah,
So he he went first, so it wasn't a one pip. It was had to be some two pip or anything. I lost the
yeah,
ball.
or 3 pip.
Yeah, something. And he pins down Maul, and Maul's token goes back in the bag. I
Yep.
go to the bag, pull it out, it's Maul.
Oh,
Immediately.
and that stuff happens too, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not perfect, but
No,
it's just
I felt bad. My opponent got really tilted because that was a really good move he did because I needed them all to go. And
Yeah,
it's just like when that happens, just like, well, why did I play this card? But no,
but that's not the but and that's the wrong. That is the mentality in the moment, and we're going to talk about tilt later, by the way.
yeah.
Just a little bit. But yeah, it's not. It may not ever be perfect, but it's just an option, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why I have that. And so the C's is mostly for given to your anger, which I tend to play pretty early in games. I try to play that round 2 or 3, maybe, unless I'm in for whatever reason playing like recover and I'm doing it round 6 to suppress some things, if that works, but that rarely happens. But I like to play it early just to kind of get some suppression on something and to give me a little bit of breathing room. Particularly with like, oh, I can make this Jedi go first type stuff for the most part. But yeah, so that was my list. I'm going to talk briefly about my games. My first game was against Rebel Jank. That's all I can call it. I do want to mention, and so Rebel Jank is in Naked Mando Squad, Naked Pathfinder Squad, Naked Commando Squad, Strike Team, 3 Rebel Troopers with the whole defensive shenanigans. So prepared supplies, Captain, outmaneuver, and then Cassian K2 Leia. So just I don't want to say Rebel good stuff, right? Because it's not quite good stuff with all the naked squads, but it was Rebel jank. But what really helped me that game is I had a wall, like a literal wall on my side of the board, and I just hid behind it most of the game, so Cassian couldn't shoot more than like 1 mini at a time, and if that. And what I kind of did in that game is I kind of forced him to shoot at my stormtroopers with a lot of his stuff, so my range troopers weren't getting shot, so they were able to just kill stuff. At one point, I panicked one of his rebel trooper squads because they're dodging, they're saving, they're dodging. So I'm not doing a lot of wounds to them. I'm just whittling them down slowly, right? So I get enough suppression to panic him, and he tries to use the captain, doesn't work. So that's a Rose question, by the way. You can't use the captain if you are panicked at the start of your activation. You are always checking for panic. You can't just not roll panic, right? So that matters, and that mattered in that game. But I basically whittled him down. With that game, Vader, there was this big LOS blocker in the middle of the table, not quite dead center, but like close to his stuff. We were playing KP. Vader goes to the left. He has like 2 squads on the left, and Vader like he moves up with his Mandos. Vader pulls them in. He makes it so that nobody else can base him. Chokes one, kills 3, then makes it, and then the next turn he like chokes 1, pulls in the rebel troopers that are there, swings, kills 5. He can't do anything about that because there's 6 in the squad, so Vader's still safe. And then Vader literally, like after that, sat behind that KP and just did nothing for the rest of the game because I'm like, well, I'm just gonna keep him on the KP because then he can't push this KP. So I had his KP, I had my KP, and then by rounds 5 or 6, I had killed enough stuff that I had the middle KP as well. So that was a 3-0. But basically my game plan that game was I'm gonna get my KP and his KP. And then if I get the middle, great. If I don't, who cares,
Yeah.
And so the range troopers in that game are kind of more of a distraction, right? Vader was the real plan. The range troopers are sitting here distracting. He had a bunch of stuff trying to deal with my storms on the side, but he's not rolling enough dice to do anything about it really. Second game, I'm playing against a variation on Ollie's Fury Road. So it's Shadow Collective, 2 buses, 3 bikes. One difference is he only has 2 Black Sun squads, both with scatter guns. And then he had Maul instead, which is a big difference. And that was kind of a newer player. I kind of figured he got carried by the list. I don't want to be mean, but like the list is really good, even with those changes. I mean, especially with those changes, right? Maul is huge, right? Maul can carry a game on his own. And so that we played hostage, which he said he'd never played before. So he made a mistake round 1 where he put a Black Sun out and tried to shoot my hostage. Can't do that.
Why would you ever flip for a game you've never played? Like that
So
blows my mind.
because he's a new player, right? And this is a 1-0 game, right? We're both 1-0. So I'm like, all right, we're in a tournament now and we're in it to win it still, right?
Yeah, but even more like
No. But for him, right? Like for me, that was so like I let him do it and I said, all right, it fails because you can't attack. And then, I kill a bus round 1, Maul's bus, so he's just standing there, he doesn't get to do anything. The next turn, I just start killing all of his stuff, and by round 4 or 5, we're down to just like I think by round 5 I tabled basically. So I just was able to kill enough stuff fast enough that it didn't matter. And I think one of the things that this list comes down to is that the range troopers are just hyper efficient, very good at shooting. And when I say hyper efficient, I mean like if they can stand and shoot, their average, they have 6 dice, their average is like a 5.6 or something hits. Right. And now granted, 2 go to cover, then you have dodges and all this stuff, but that's still three potential wounds every shot. And that adds up, right? Because if you're doing that 4 times a turn, that's 12 potential wounds every single turn. And that's that's assuming it's heavy cover every single time. And that's assuming it's just 5 as well. So they're just efficient. And they're good at shooting, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The third game, and this is the game I really want to talk to. So I'm kind of disappointed you didn't watch the stream, JR, which we talked about before we started.
Well, hold on a minute. Doesn't mean I still can, right? So
no,
you're
no, I am spoiling this because this has to go on the podcast for those that weren't there.
Okay, for it.
So we get to the table, it's the stream table for the third game. And they remake the table, okay? Because the person I'm playing against had already played on stream. The person I'm playing against is Clay. Oh, I didn't even think to say the first 2 guys' names. Sorry. But his name is Clay. He's playing Republic. Triple range trooper, Anakin with 3 core.
You mean commandos?
Commandos, sorry.
That's mistake 1 already.
3 commandos, 1 commander, Anakin, 3 core. Okay. And so they reset the table and he chooses blue. Sorry, he chose blue. No, he chose table side, I'm pretty sure. And then he chose one side, I chose the other. Now, crucially, we're playing on a map, and you can actually go watch the stream later, which we maybe want to put in the description. I don't know.
I can put it in the description.
Put the stream, but they also said they're going to upload like a video of each game individually. So that would probably be better if we can do that eventually. But I digress. So basically, we end up playing Key, and I'm just going to try to describe it to the best I can. We're playing major offensive. To the direct left of my in the middle of the board deployment is a building that I make my key because it's my best choice because I don't want them infiltrating and doing a bunch of shenanigans with, right? That building is attached to a bus that's line of sight blocking. Line of sight blocking and higher than a silhouette, right? So completely LOS blocking. There is a corner where that bus is touching the building that's just big enough to put a mini. Now, before the game, when we were discussing terrain, I asked, hey, can you see through this hole right here? Because there's like a little hole. And he said, no. And I said, no, I don't think so either. He ended up regretting that. And you'll see why in a moment. So in his area, he has a little courtyard. And then he has a building across by his long edge deployment centerpiece. He has a big building that's basically right on the outside of the box of major offensive, So it's like close to my side, and it's within range 2 of my building for KP. That's going to matter here in a moment. And so his KP is basically in his box of his like right outside of that box for major offensive, the box being the 3x3 portion, right?
Yeah.
And mine is right next to it. So we're basically playing on like a 3x3 board right there, right? Unless he does shenanigans with his commandos. So we get to deployment. He deploys 2 commando squads on top of his building, which is taller than mine, mind you, so that he can get basically no cover shots down onto anything standing on my KP building. So very aggressive. And then he puts everything else behind LOS blocking, super hard to find. Okay, so this is round 1, so now we're in deployments. So it's round 1. What command card would you play in that situation if you're playing my list? For the record, I'm not going to say anything actually because I'll spoil it.
It's the Vader one. That's the only choice.
Hold on. Let me see.
Jose, you've seen the game. Calm down.
No, but with Vader, that's the choice. You get the 3 pips. You can get the reliable too. Yeah, that's auto play. Like if you have Vader on the other side, I feel like they have to have something really good or really something really cooked up that they don't play that Vader because the reliable two makes Vader better.
So what do you think, JR?
I mean, that's the obvious choice to always have reliable two during round one, but I'm assuming you made a play here, so you didn't do the normal thing, right?
Yeah, so what card did I play?
So in this situation, I would do give into your anger.
I played a Now You Will Die.
Oh my God. Holy cow. Talk about aggressive.
He said YOLO.
He said, I'm gonna kill these clone commandos, and I don't care if you kill me.
We'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
So basically, yes, that is exactly what I said. I said, I don't even want to find out if commandos are good. I think they're good. I think they're going to kill my range troopers because they have lethal, and lethal Pierce 1 adds up fast after playing somebody with Pierce 1. It adds up fast. So I burst of speed Palpatine on top of the building, do 4 attacks against his guys. And he has no dodges from Anakin, no nothing yet, right? So all he has is heavy cover and Katarn and shields. And I get rid of his, and basically he uses up all of his stuff. He uses Katarn, he uses his shield, and I get 1 squad to 1 guy and another squad to 2 guys, which in an ideal world, they're both dead. But I'll take it, right? And then he goes and he hides in that little corner and hidey spot I told you about earlier, behind complete LOS blocking on basically every angle except right behind him. Now, granted, he has a building on the other side that I didn't think he could see me from, but then he did a move later in the game and he got a single shot off on Palpatine. But at that moment, like, by the way, when I played the card, I'm shaking, right? Like,
Yeah,
and on the
okay.
inside, my whole insides are like butterflies. I'm like, this is the dumbest or smartest thing I've ever done in my life at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and when I played it, I literally said, when we were getting ready to flip, and I said, for those at home, because I told my family that I was going to be doing this, and they've never played the game, they've never seen the game. So I say, for those at home, I'm about to do something very crazy, right? And then I flip it over, and then he goes, what? Like, basically, it's on stream, but he's incredulous, right? He's like, there's no way you did this. Are you freaking kidding me? That's the dumbest thing.
He put himself in that position. Why would you do that knowing you have Palpatine? Like
because nobody's dumb enough to do that.
No,
right?
it's
Nobody's crazy enough. But for me, it's opportunity.
Yeah, it's a Hail Mary pass, right?
Right. So that's
it's
what
not a Hail Mary pass. You have an
okay,
untouched Palpatine with anger and all that stuff. It's not that much of a Hail Mary.
He has
They're
heavy cover.
mini.
He has shields. He has the Catan armor. Like, and you got to roll Palpatine's dice that could potentially go bad, right? Because it's 2 reds, 2 black, 2 whites. It could just be 2 reds at some points.
He has search the crit. He can suppress them at the very minimum. Even if he didn't kill anything, even if they're massive suppressed, like that's still an edge.
He got 2 squads weak, right?
They're useless at that point. Any 4 mini model down to 1 to 2 is useless.
To be honest, I don't
especially
think
because they're only
are like super like aggressive and hitting. I think they're great at objective play, in my opinion.
Right. So, but he was using them in a very aggressive, I'm going to kill you manner.
Yeah.
And so my plan was just see if so the thing about a Now You Will Die is it's not just suppression, it's immobilized tokens.
True.
So that means I now also have 3 range trooper shots that turn at those guys. And so by the end of round 1, I'd killed one guy, right? Like they both were covered on their activation because which is probably their best play. So they got shields back. Then they had all the dodge stuff and the Anakin and all the BS, right? But there's 1 squad dead by the end of round 1. There's a 2nd squad dead by I think round 2. The 3rd squad.
Was he not able to kill Palpatine?
No, because so that's the other thing. So Palpatine is safe in that corner he was in. His entire army, except for the 2 clone commandos, are literally on the other side of a wall, on the other side of an entire courtyard.
He did a Jose special.
And so, like, basically, his entire army is basically planning to just slowly move up the board. Or they're planning on me walking up to the building and being dumb and just shooting down at them or something, right? Which I'm not going to do. I'm hiding back. My storms did literally nothing all game. At one point, go.
No, I was going to say, so you remember what the question I asked? Like, was there ever a point in time where You could have been punished where you should have been punished, but you weren't. This is one of those times, but you played it so
Negative.
well
I-
that you
Yeah.
you couldn't get punished because you hit Palpatine, which I like. That was amazing.
So the thing is, I only did this because I could hide Palpatine.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a Hail Mary pass knowing that you could be safe if you did it.
It was because to me it's like when I made the call, when I was placing the card, it was okay. What is a now you will die for? Right? It's like it's to win games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, it was like if I can turn one, take out like it was very clear his game plan was I am going to win with commandos. From the way he was talking before the game had started, by the way he deployed, it was clear that was his plan.
Yeah.
Right. He has Anakin to do Anakin things, but he is relying on these commandos to be his playmakers.
He had 2 or 3.
3.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so it was just and so to me it was like, especially like knowing Palpatine is safe. It's like he's still going to be able to just play in the strings all the other turns. And most games I don't even get to play it now you'll die because by the time it would come up, the game's already over. And so I actually got to use it in a very effective manner. And so what it did, more importantly, and I kind of want to talk about this as well, is it threw him on the back foot mentally. Because he's just like, I have no idea what to do. My whole game plan is ruined. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right. And that's what's going on in his head. And so he's just completely baffled the entire game. And you can kind of see it on stream, but I could definitely see it just, looking at him. He's like, he's flustered. Right. I don't know what to do. And that turned into tilt. And when you're flustered and when you're tilting, you don't play well. And it compounds. Right. And so from there, he just started making bad decisions. He got a single shot on Palpatine. And that was with a squad that only had 2 dice because it was a range trooper squad that had to double move up on top of a building. And my range troopers, what do I keep saying? Range troopers, right?
Yeah, range trooper on the brain, bro.
Yeah. So he had commandos that went on the building that I was then able to shoot at with all my range troopers. And so I had whittled that squad down to 2 guys. So they got like a single shot, like it was like 1 or 2 shots went into Palpatine. And he either rolled 1 dice for defense or no dice because of heavy cover and just all that shenanigans. So it's like, and so I basically just kind of was able to just control. At that point, all he has left really that can do stuff is Anakin. Because I killed the 3 commando squads by the end of round 2 I think it's 3. And so at that point, all he has left is Anakin and three core units. So he starts moving them up slowly. And then he makes, in my opinion, a really fatal error. And what he does is he puts dodge standbys or move standbys on all his storms to try to get Vader
Clones.
And so the plan is when Vader moves out, because Vader's also behind this LOS blocker. So when Vader moves over to try to do something, right, he's going to just shoot at Vader with 3 clone shots and kill him. Well, he made a fatal error. He put one of the minis for one of the squads, not the leader, in range 1 of Vader. And so Vader force pushed that squad, put a guy that he could base contact, and then charges, swings, and kills 5 or 4 or whatever. And he's like, yeah, there's that. Now he's down to Anakin and 2 clone squads. I think.
So real quick, his list was, I'm just trying to remember his list. So it's 3 commandos, Anakin, and 3 phase.
I don't remember what's on the phases or what guns they had because they didn't.
But it was 7 acts?
8 because he had a commander. Clone commander.
Okay. But they're phase 1s?
I don't remember. To be honest, it was fate, and it's not on Game Uplink either because Game Uplink doesn't do commandos or range troopers yet, and probably never will. But yeah, it didn't really matter for this game.
Then why? I'm puzzled, but okay.
Yeah. So, but by that point, he basically given up. Then Anakin charges in, swings, doesn't kill Vader, and he concedes. So
he thought Anakin was gonna kill. How many wounds were on Vader?
None.
Because I think you shouldn't think Anakin's gonna kill Vader. Anakin throws 5 dice.
Yeah. But I think in his head, he's like, if I can do 3 or 4 wounds to Vader and then maybe kill him next turn, maybe I can turn this around. But I mean, at that point, there's no turning it around.
Sounded like a big case of snowball, bro. That was terrible.
It was a huge case of snowball, right? but yeah,
I gotta
so
say, demoralize in the game is not that great. Demoralize in real life, fantastic.
yeah, and my goal was not to tilt this poor guy, right? It was not to demoralize this guy. It was not to ruin his whole day, but it was literally
Pause it
like
right here. You can see the moment his heart breaks.
but
I'm
it's
sorry. I'm
like,
sorry.
yeah, but it's like, I'm like, if I can kill his clone commandos and that's his game plan, you know?
I agree. I agree, Rob. That was a good move. It was a good move.
I don't I don't think it was a Hail Mary, to be honest. I think that was just taking advantage of
A misplay.
yeah, misplay.
Okay,
Taking
all right,
advantage
all right.
of a misplay.
If you're gonna say it wasn't Hail Mary, I'll give you it was a Hail Mary where the catcher had sticky gloves. Okay, I'll give
No,
you
it's the
that.
reason
That's not even the right
no,
sport.
the
Hail Mary's
reason
football.
No, I'm talking about
so
like sticky
but the thing
gloves to
is,
catch the football.
but
You
that's
said the
illegal.
catcher.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyways, my
yeah,
point is
Anyways, go.
the reason it wasn't to me it was not as death defying as it sounds is because that's the perfect play. You get the massive board unit wipe attempt, you glue them to the ground, and you have a getaway spot. Now, if Palpatine did that and had nowhere to go, okay, and it worked out. That's a Hail Mary. It's
That's a
perfect.
Hail Mary.
You wound them down. You duck Palpatine behind a brick wall, and now they're just range trooper bait. Like I don't understand. Like why do you think I didn't when we played? I didn't infiltrate anywhere near Palpatine
Well, okay,
at
but you'd
all.
also seen the
No, no,
stream
no,
where
no,
I
no,
did
no,
this.
no, no,
So.
no. I play you with infiltrating units all the time. I never go close to
Right.
Palpatine.
Yeah.
It's
And
just you
that's
don't do that.
So my question is, let's say it went wrong, Rob, and you didn't get any hits through he defense tech
I,
saved
I
this guy.
still I
Would
still
you
immobilize them.
but would
Palpatine's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
safe.
would they be able to return fire or no? He's that
No,
hidden.
he's that hidden.
Damn,
yeah, and then
that
it's
was
the
tough.
range
Especially
trooper bait.
especially from them because so here's their building. I don't know where my hands right. Here's their building. Here's my building's wall, and Palpatine's here. So like my wall is right in their line of sight.
Yeah.
The only building you can see them from was on the other side of the board, basically. And he got one shot there before those clone commanders died or commandos died. So
Well, shit.
he
I gotta
was
give it to you. That was a good move.
yeah. So I definitely my most fun play. Didn't feel great for the opponent, but it
No,
was a fun play
that
for
was
me.
money. That
And you know what's
opening.
funny is like I know that's what you would do because you're so aggressive about
You know that's what I would do. And
yeah,
that's the
you're
problem.
so
That's why I would
aggressive.
never work against you.
Mhm.
Ever. Right? You played me too much
Yeah.
for it to work.
Yeah.
Um
I just imagine episode 3 where he just screams at the Jedi and goes, I'm just like that's how Rob plays Palpatine. I'm gonna scream into you.
yeah.
Yeah. Good game.
But yeah, so KubaCon as a whole, though, I want to give a huge shout out. First off, shout out to Josh for being the judge for that. Did a great job. At one point, I think I had his entire attention for one of the games, like the second game. Like it was literally just question after question. Not necessarily just for me, but because my opponent was kind of newer, so I was like, it was a lot of like me saying, "Hey, this is how it works." He's like, "No, that's not how it works," or "Is that how it works?" And so, there's a lot of just being able to just do that kind of stuff. So I want to thank Josh for doing that. I also want to thank Tori. Pretty sure Tori was the TO. He was a great guy. Price support was good. It was fun. Apparently, this was Bay Area Open, by the way. I didn't realize, but Bay Area Open and KubaCon are the same thing, but there was like a whole bit of drama or something where Legion couldn't be in Bay Area Open, so they had to go. It's a whole thing. But so I know we wanted to go to Bay Area Open this year, but apparently it didn't exist. So it was this KubaCon event.
So it was only 3 rounds the whole tournament.
Yeah, so I do want to kind of talk about that. So it was an 18-player tournament. So it was an 18-player tournament, but it was only 3 rounds. So I went to SOS, which I didn't really like. I don't like SOS. I really don't.
Were there any intentional draws?
No. And after talking to you today about drawing in Unlimited, I am not complaining about Legion draws anymore. So, but yeah, so no draws, no intentional draws, right? The guy in second place was also playing range troopers, but I'm pretty sure both my opponents went 2-1, so that helps.
Oh, that sucks. I hate when that happens.
I know. we were both the opponent, like the other guy that was 3-0. We talked. And we're both like, yeah, we're tired. Right.
Well, okay, be honest.
I
Could you have taken him?
so he was playing Palpatine Range Troopers as well.
The answer is yes, Rob. Yes, I could have taken his ass.
Well, okay. If my personality was how I played, I would say that. But it would have been an interesting mirror match. I do think I do better in the mirror match because he doesn't have a Force user and I do. And if I can get if I can get Vader into the right, if I can get Vader into the lines,
Palpatine gets no respect.
Palpatine,
He's a
it's
different
not
kind
that
of Force user. He's
exactly,
yeah,
right? Like, I'm not, if I get an enemy Palpatine in my lines, he's going to do his 4 attacks and they're going to suck and they're going to be scary. But
Punch him
it's
in the
like,
face.
but like a Vader in your lines, and that is a like, yeah, it's a punch to the face, right? Whereas a Vader in your lines is like a death by 1,000 cuts. You have to constantly think about it. You have to constantly deal with it. He has a higher potential for how much he can screw up. Like, and so I'm more scared of a Vader or a Maul in my lines than a Palpatine, especially because the Palpatine isn't going to get into my lines. So could I have taken him? I would like to say yes, but I don't know. So
yeah.
I think it would have come down to, does Vader win me the game or not?
Yeah.
I don't think it comes down to dice. Like a lot of people say, well, it's a mirror match, so it comes down to dice. That's bullshit. It never comes down to dice. Dice affect games. They make a huge difference sometimes. They make a massive difference sometimes.
Calm Vader is 2 courage, right?
Operative Vader
Operative
is
Vader
3
is 2
courage.
3
Operative
courage.
Vader
Sorry.
is 3 courage, yeah. And Palpatine is 4, so at the very, so he needs 8 basically to be panicked, 3 to be suppressed. But yeah, so, and he was also running the impact guys. He also had like snow troopers instead of storms, and I don't remember where the rest of his points went. It might have been into medics. Like he might have had like 3 or 4 medics or something, which makes a difference. But yeah, I don't want to say I could have taken him. I don't want to say I would have lost. I think I would have been in a good spot because I have a better, like in the matchup, in the mirror, I think I have a better chance because of Vader.
Yeah.
Especially because I think that might even be a game I infiltrate with Vader depending on the map, so that I can get into the lines early on, just to mess with him. Right. With that sort of game, with that mirror, it's can I mess up what he's trying to do fast enough, right? Because if I can get into one range trooper squad, all of a sudden I'm shooting 4 and he's shooting 3. If I can then the next turn kill another range trooper squad, and if I can kill that 3rd squad, it's over, right? But who knows? We've got a lot on this, and we do have to still talk about the league just briefly. For those that are listening, I just want to mention the Fresno League, the Legion Lads League, I should say, is now on round 4. We're gonna only do 6 rounds. Even if we don't play at VetFest, I want to announce winners at VetFest at the very least, or top prizes and top stuff at VetFest. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, so what's our next thing, by the way, JR?
So that's what I want to kind of talk about, the league.
You want to talk about the league? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's not more or less like going depth into the league. We could talk about our game if we wanted to, but I just thought it's interesting.
Yeah, Jose, do you want to talk about our game?
My hangover game?
Let's talk about our game, Jose. What did you do this for the game?
You guys didn't post updates, you jerks. So I was just like,
oh no,
I don't have a camera on my phone, and also and Jose was not happy after round 1. So
yeah, no.
Okay, what were the command cards round 1?
Darkness
hold on, we gotta go. No, I wasn't that crazy.
No, I wasn't that crazy.
So I'm still finding it that I'm the guy in the our fun little tournament is the only one that's trying to do different things and have fun. Rob destroys Kubla Khan and then comes to my house.
Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot about our game.
My kids,
so
fucking beats my ass and then leaves. Tells my kid your father will be back. We gotta go. So I'm on the train of anything other than Delta Squad is too much commando. I have a deep hatred for four model units. I think they're a trap. I think they're all trash. Yes. I'm
I
sorry.
agree.
I'm sorry. I am sorry. It doesn't
Hot
matter.
take, you're playing them wrong. That's what it is.
No, it's
Okay.
not that you play, dude. I've rushed in with
Okay.
Mandos, guns blazing, amazing dice, and once again my opponent blocks out, and then let me get 3 hits through. Cool, two of your guys dead, and oh, okay, cool. Four of my two of my 4 minis are dead. Useless, 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 useless. It doesn't matter how many dice they throw. It doesn't. When you lose a mini to a, in my opinion, when you lose a single mini to a 4-man unit, it's equivalent of losing a heavy. It's that is what it is to me. And I've played tons of four man Pathfinders, 4-man Rebel Mandos, 4-man Shadow Collective Mandos, and Shadow Collective Mandos have all the defense tech in the world, and I'm still getting I'm making optimal plays, and my opponent's defensive dice are insanely to the moon, way more advanced than my dice I'm throwing. So I just feel like it's a liability. And it doesn't matter. Like Rob made a good point today. Like if you just get if for like if you can just put them in a bad spot, Palpatine, or even how I did it today, um, they're just a 4-man naked clone unit. Like that's really what it is. I don't believe they should have a range 2 gun. I really don't. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Hot take for me. I think we see shields. We see Mando shields. Block vibro blades, block freaking lightsabers.
Oh,
You
you're
know,
mad
we
about that.
we see armor. We see armor deflect lightsaber blasts. And it's like none of that defensive tech works in melee, but we
Okay.
see it in cinema work in melee all the
You're
time.
playing the
So
the Cologne Commandos wrong. Okay. They don't hit hard. They got great defense tech, but they're objective grabbers. And like that's
They're too expensive to be objective grabbers.
they're
I'm sorry.
nah, dude, no.
85 points for an
So
that's
here's my
objective
okay.
or
just here's
90?
my
What
just
are they?
here's what I think. They even if you're not taking delta, even if you're just, and which taking only delta is the correct answer. Even if you take 4 of the regular commandos, I was telling Rob earlier, like when you look at people who play clones, the commandos don't do nothing that fits what clones want to do. Clones don't want to be grabbing boxes. Clones don't want to be infiltrating. Clones want to stay close to my Anakin. They want to stay close to my Obi. They want to stay close to the ball.
But so
So
that's
it's
that
like,
and so before you finish, right? That's a horizontal upgrade, right? Horizontal meaning it now opens up more things for you to be able to do because they now can do that. They now can do all this other stuff, right? It's like clones could not before. Now they can. So they do open
no,
up new
you
doors
could
for
you
you.
could you could do it with rapid reinforcements and infiltrate a better clone unit if you really wanted to.
Sure, if
I'd
you
feel
got a
I feel
1 in
much safer.
16.
I feel much safer. Well, it's the same thing with the reason you take recovery now. If you have commandos, there's a one time shot you can get it. I left you the opportunity. You flip that card with the
Well, of
fastest
course I
of
did.
exactly. So once again, it's not your only options are I could do rapid and do a better clone unit infiltration, or I can take recover. And my opponent's not going to give it to me, and you'd much rather in that bracket you'd much rather have other things that have been tried and true in the clone ball like sphere. Um,
Well, I mean,
like
let's look at your game. Like I don't know
So
if
yeah, let's talk about our game and how our
well,
game went.
like okay,
Okay.
so yeah, I don't know if what the flop was, but I don't
So
think giving Rob key position. Who was blue player?
so he was blue. So
I
the
was blue.
flop was recover the supplies, key position, intercept the transmissions, doesn't matter. And then the green was
No recover. You said recover supplies, isn't it right? Yeah.
yeah,
I think it was
that was
second
the
or
very
something.
first one. And then I don't remember what the greens were, but it was something and then supply drop. And then the
Do you
red
have limited
was
viz in your deck? What was that?
Do you have what?
Limited viz?
No.
You should.
and then
Mm.
the deployments were something I didn't want, advanced positions, something I was like, and then disarray, which I didn't really want.
So who banned recover?
He
I
did.
did. It was the very last thing I did.
I think oh, it's the very last thing you did.
Yeah, because I was
Why
worried.
did
That
you-
was
Oh, because you probably wanted to recover, but I don't know. I feel like you gotta go. I don't think you give Rob key positions.
No,
no.
I was no, I was 100% okay with key positions or key positions or recover. That's why I left it up to him. I'm running two Jedis with the key position in the
Yeah, so why
middle.
don't you tell him your
Very
list? Because that
confident.
matters.
Yeah, so my list, um I have a variation of this list that with 9 acts, which I think is the superior one, but I wanted to play double Jedi and Delta. So what I came up with was kind of a control style. I'm gonna wait for you to make the tough decisions. So I did Obi-Wan with force barrier, force push, and offensive stance or defensive stance. Anakin with force barrier, saber throw, and defensive stance. 4 phase 1s with the clone medic, 1 naked phase 1 clone trooper, and Delta Squad with offensive push, Catan armor, emergency transponder, and their DC 17 upgrade.
So why key positions?
Because I can have Anakin and Obi in the middle using force barrier with dodge tech to just wait it out behind the line of sight blocker that you so famously love.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
that's not
you
the
can't
middle line
assume
of
there's
sight
going to be
blocker
one.
wasn't. It didn't block line of sight, right?
Well, he was
So-
on a building.
So the he had in the center of the board, it was a massive piece of terrain,
Yeah.
massive,
Yeah.
and it was completely LOS blocking from the floor. He also put a lot of buildings on the board. Some of them were height 2, which range troopers love because now they're completely safe from the Jedi up there, with who both have jump 1, not jump 2. So they were hiding on a range or on a height 2 building all game. And from that height 2 building, guess what you could see? All of his clones on the other side of that LOS blocker. And so they took the high ground and it was over, Anakin.
So
It was not that
Well,
bad.
well-
You're skipping a he's free.
No, okay,
He's
okay,
failing.
but-
Hold on, wait. He's
So
failing to
we'll talk about
mention
we'll talk
that
about the
he
game.
unloaded with every range trooper, pulled the strings, and only killed 2 miniatures in that first round.
So let's talk about round 1. So and we'll you say what your plan was and I'll say what mine is, and then we'll keep going from there, right? So what was your plan round 1?
My plan round 1.
Yeah.
Oh, my original plan was I was after laughing at the other guy, I was gonna blitz that left side with the commandos and start picking off the clones.
range troopers.
But the range no, not range trooper, your core.
Oh,
That would have
got
been
it.
easy. That would have been easy money.
Yeah.
Because then you're not gonna burn barrier on them. You're not gonna race anything on them. You're just gonna let them eat it. But the thing about doing that was the defense attack was only going to last for that one explosion, and then I wouldn't be able to get Anakin or anybody over there. So my whole goal was just to hug that center point in the middle, and I wanted to stretch the clone commandos on the left side, just so I can take advantage of their token that I placed right in the middle on that KP. Just to see what it could do. It was all just stress testing, but the critical error before I get into this was Rob gave me every opportunity to gain any amount of information I needed, but because I was hungover, my answer to everything was I don't care.
Yeah. So I'm like, hey, do you want to see my list? No, I don't care.
Do you want to see what I'm playing? I don't care. Do you like the fancy painted belts on my range trooper? I don't care.
Which he
if you would have looked at his list, you would have known not to give him key positions because
No. If I would have looked at his list, I wouldn't have made the fatal error I made in the end of turn 1.
Well, still don't give him key position because you're playing a range game now that takes a turn 6. That's just all kinds of bad, in my opinion.
My dice weren't bad. It wasn't.
It's not
matter.
about dice at that point. It's just about all Rob has to do is sit at range until turn 5 and start making moves.
Yeah, but that changes the math changes if I have Anakin and Obi still. Like I'm not worried about.
But you're not getting
gives-
shots back in return.
Right, exactly. It gives me 5 turns to just shoot at your army. And even if I'm only getting 1 or 2 shots that go through because you're rolling your defense side. You have all these dodge, you have all the bullshit, right? It still whittles you down. And as soon as I kill a single activation, I am now winning the center.
Mhm.
And now the onus is on you to kill an activation.
Yeah, and I was fully prepared to launch and to kill things. The problem is the linchpin came out at the wrong time. Like I had a plan.
Right. And so what happened round one is he moved his Delta squad up along the right side of this LOS blocker / center piece of terrain. And then I double moved Vader up. It was a double move with Vader, and then I force waved and then blast. How did I get you into melee with me? I don't even remember.
Well, you broke the GT rules and you used way more tools than you should have. So
Oh,
you
get
should
out
have
of
that
here with that.
information. No, no,
Okay.
no, no. So he
Okay.
moved. So here's where the I don't care fucking bit me in the ass, and I'm dropping the F bomb because it was a fuck moment. So I pushed the commandos out to the side because I wanted to see what they could do against range troopers. So I popped all my offensive push, my emergency comms. I just wanted to see what I could do, and it was 4 red dice. It is what it is. It was
Two
decent.
crits. It was a
Yeah,
good
like it
roll.
was
Two
nothing.
crits.
It was nothing. It was nothing to write home about. I was like, all right, cool. So it took me 2 aims to get 2 crits. That's wonderful. So
So it
that
ended
was
up one pierce one because of barrier.
yeah. So it was like, but the error was so, so one time this bites me in the butt. When I play Vader, I don't use the Con Vader model because it looks like ass, and I don't
Technically
mean
now
as a
illegal under
paint.
GT rules, mind
Yeah,
you.
it's illegal, so I have to bring it now. I don't mean it looks like ass in terms of like the paint job on it sucks. I mean that model looks like ass, and
Yeah.
I way more love the
Op
Op
Vader
Vader
model, yeah.
model. So when I play Vader, the only Vader that ever hits the table is the Op Vader like model. And so I see his Op Vader, and my brain is programmed after years of programming that that's Com Vader because I didn't think to ask which Vader it was.
Which is a
So
wild
the whole
assumption because I've like never played Con Vader
the
once.
whole time I'm staring at Vader, I'm thinking, speed one, fuck this guy. And he goes, brings out the range two. I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, it's Op Vader. I'm like, oh, I fucked up.
I think what it was is after the first move, I was able to get the Force Blast or Force Wave or whatever, and
Yeah.
then Cohere one
The
up,
Cohere.
which then
And
got you
move
into
up, you
Force,
pull.
yeah, Force push range, which then I was able to move into you, and then I choked one. And then like round two, I just swung and killed them. After I like force pushed them behind the LOS
Well, hold on.
blocker quarter.
The reason that was the linchpin was because I now had to force Anakin up to get the dodges I needed to make sure that they survive Vader. And so I managed to get Anakin up, but what ended up happening was this fucking asshole force pushes them even further,
Of course.
murders them like in a dark alley, and Anakin's sitting there like, where'd they go, Scooby? Where'd they go?
And
And then
then
and then he just gets
so to
bombarded.
now
Oh, and he did giving you anger.
yeah, so I did give into your anger on round two on Anakin. So Anakin did not attack, which means he got 5 suppression that after that turn, which went down to 4. And so at that turn, I attacked more of his clones, whittled down his clones a little bit. Obi starts moving up. There's a lot of guardianing going on with Obi. Obi takes I
Obi
think
was a
like
Obi
4
was a
wounds.
boss, dude. I love
He
Obi.
takes like 4 wounds, saves like 8, heals the 4 wounds off with the medics, or heals 3 off. And then round 3, I flaw so that he can't get a card on Anakin or an order on Anakin. And then I push Vader. How did I do it? I pushed Vader up. Oh, he had moved a clone squad on top of the middle point for some reason. So I'd been shooting at them with my range troopers.
Because I was shooting at Vader the turn prior because he didn't have any dodges.
Correct. Yeah. And so when I say my range troopers, I mean 2 squads. My third squad is like on a building on the side, and they're getting like out of cover shots on his clones in the back, basically. Like he has there's basically this firing line. So they were able to get some shots out of cover as well, which helped. But so Vader moves up, and it's implacable round 3, so he gets his order back. He pushes them so that they're pretty close to my lines effectively. and I think I even killed them
You killed them
because
because I pressed up with Obi and I was
yeah.
racing to get Anakin out because I was gonna be able to follow up that Obi shot with Anakin, which realistically probably would have floored Vader. But the problem was Anakin stayed panicked because I had
So well,
six white dice, and Rob's like, "You should get one off." I'm like, "Yeah, statistics says I should get one off, right?
so
I
yeah.
should roll one off all
So
blanks."
so to be clear, while we were rolling through and while we were rolling through looking for the order, I was shooting at Anakin with my range troopers because he didn't have
Yeah,
any dodges and he was out of range of Obi-Wan for
Obi-Wan.
Guardian. Obi-Wan at this turn it was his dodge turn, so he had like a shit ton of dodges. So I was like, I'm not even gonna touch Obi-Wan. There's no point, right? Like in my second activation at the end of the turn with Implacable, I didn't even bother swinging because I'm like, I don't even want to risk taking wounds back. You know what I mean? Um, which maybe was a bad play, but who knows? But so that whole turn, my range troopers are shooting at Anakin. Just and they're Anakin's out of cover, so it's just light cover from suppression. And so he's down to like 2 wounds or something by the time he activates. Doesn't get to activate because he's panicked. And so range troopers finish him off either that turn or the beginning of the next turn.
It was that turn.
Yeah, it was that turn. And at
Because
that
then
point,
right after Anakin whiffed, and he died, that's when Vader you pulled because you were racing for that Vader token.
I kind of, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of wasn't. I didn't really care if Vader went or the range troopers or even the core. Because if the core go, they're just moving up, standby, moving up, standby, moving up, standby. So they can shoot at Obi when eventually he gets force pushed out. The range, if I get range troopers, they're shooting at Anakin. So I wasn't racing as much as you think I was because I was not scared of Anakin moving into melee because he even when I went with Vader, he had 4 suppression already. So I'm like,
Yeah.
odds are he's doing an action or 4 or 5 or something, right? So I only shot at him like 2 or 3 more times. I think it was only twice before he activated. So that means he had 4 suppression. So I wasn't that scared that he would get in basically. But yeah, so and then once Anakin died, it was just kind of like Obi-Wan was the only thing I'm scared of. He's taken wounds because of Guardian. I force push him out. Bunch of people get shots, do a couple wounds. The next turn, I don't remember what happened other than that Obi-Wan dies by the end of the round and he concedes.
He was tired of blocking for all these pieces of shit on the fucking battlefield.
Like I think he played the Surge card that turn, and I just kept
No, I
shooting.
did not. Oh no, you're
Yeah,
right. I
he
did
did.
play.
And so like some of his guys got surges. I played Master of Evil. So like all of his guys, when Vader eventually goes, they all get suppression, and it's just yeah.
Yeah, it's just a bad thing. Like just the lack of knowing which Vader it was caused that snowball. Because had I thought to ask instead of saying I don't care because I'm hungover, I would have known not to push up that far. That shot was not going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. That just caused that classic snowball effect. In my opinion. So it was brutal.
That sounds like a hell of a game, and all your
It was
fault.
fun. It was all my fault. So I was telling Rob, I said, what happened was I was playing the girls went to bed last night and I was like, cool, I'm gonna play this new game, X Defiant. It's like a Smash Bros shooter with Overwatch. It's like the factions are like from Siphon Filter, Division, Far Cry 6. It's like a hero shooter like Overwatch. I was like, damn, this game's fun. And then it's like, man, this is like no skill based matchmaking. I could drink while I do this. So I started drinking, having fun drinking. But before I knew it, it was like 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and I'm like drunk, and I'm just like, oh, I gotta go to bed. And then that's when my phone goes, doot, 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 and I look, and Rob's like, what time's their game? I'm like, oh my god. So I'm playing this game hungover, which is why I have the cantina back here. And that just the hangover. It's like I gotta play the game for the league, and it's like I had to just like muddle through it. But I think I told Rob I'm not gonna be out on this list. I'm gonna play it again, but I need to play it like not drunk and I'm not drunk, not a hungover. Is the issue because I wasn't pre-measuring, I wasn't doing anything. Like it was just yeah, sure, yeah, go ahead. Rob's like, yeah, what about this? How about this? Yeah, Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So-
I think this kind of leads into the next thing that we should talk about. Based on time, by the way, Jared, let's talk about GT stuff next podcast.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about approaching the game and how we approach the game.
sober.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. Sober number one rule.
Because I kind of I do think that matters, especially as you were saying with all these games in the league. I think it's kind of interesting for us to talk about that, right? So in an ideal situation, of course, Jose. So when talk about it as if you were sober for the games, not hungover.
So the way I approach games is there's two different ways to go about it. If it's a competitive event, whether it's semi-competitive like a weekend event or like some big fancy little tournament like
just
LVO.
2 seconds, because I just don't, I want to make sure I'm clear for you and for everyone listening. When I say approaching the game, I mean that first initial turn 0, right? That's what we're going
Oh,
for.
you're
Jared?
you're thinking about just a turn 0.
Like is that what you were saying, Jared, earlier? Is that what you wanted?
Mhm.
Like turn 0,
Like
you
it
just
turns
walk
0
up to the
and
map.
not even that. Like determine if you want to be blue player or red player if it's in your power.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So from you walk up to the board to you start deploying. Like, what do you
Okay.
do when you're approaching the game?
It's red for me. It's red player all the time. I think that I think table edge matters a lot more than the cards. Yeah, dude, because you could have the best cards in the
Then
world. But
why
you
didn't you pick to be red player?
The reason I
This
didn't
is-
because I wanted to test commandos. I had recover in there. I wanted to see what would happen.
This is a situation where, for those that are not watching the podcast, they could not see Jared's face just go to what?
Yeah, like that makes no. I mean,
It's hold on. It's the equivalent to Rob taking a deck that we helped him make and being like he never took his deck.
What do you mean?
We helped him make one of the events you played at. We had helped you with deck construction, like your game deck. We're like you're gonna aim to be blue player and you're gonna take your deck all the time. And then in the event, you never took your deck, and we're like, why? Because table edge mattered more, or table edge made more sense. Like,
I think that's
so
where you're mistaken.
we
This could be
geared
my
your
controversial
deck
point.
to help.
Is go ahead, finish.
Anyways, it's red player all the time. The reason in this game I took blues because I wanted to play some of the try to get some of the clone stuff with commandos. Like I was hoping I was gonna be able to pull recover. I wanted to see like how it would be with like a hostage type situation. Like if we go with hostage, I can infiltrate the clone somewhere. Maybe I can get set up to like make a play on the hostage at a later turn. Like I was just trying to stress test the clones, which is why I did blue. But in normal cases where I'm not testing anything, I prefer red player. You get final veto and you get the table edge.
Okay, so I actually disagree with you. I think blue player is more important to the game. Now, don't get me wrong. That's
Was it in your Ewok hostage game?
Yes.
What?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
At LVO, when you had blue player, you gave hostage.
Yeah, I gave hostage, and
And
hindsight,
hostage with blue player
that wasn't
wins.
the smarter choice for my gameplay because he was playing clones. But the reason why I have to be blue player as the Ewoks is because my list is very much skewed to my objectives. If I don't get to be blue player, I'm screwed right off the bat, right? So in hindsight, for that game that I lost, I should never have given him hostage. That was a mistake.
What position was hostage in that game?
I
If you
don't remember.
Okay.
I don't. It's on stream, so if it
Yeah, if it was
Yeah.
3, you didn't have a choice.
yeah,
No,
I
he
mean,
had
so,
he had a choice. He had a choice.
Okay, so it was
So-
like 1 or 2. Okay.
like
Because I talked to Ryan about it right when it happened. I said, "Do you give the Ewoks a shot at hostage?" And I was like, it's kind of sticking. Ryan's like, "Oh, you can't count out clones." And I'm just like, "But it's weird. Like, I don't understand why he did that."
Well, because
Like,
I was
anyway.
I was baking off of scouting party being range 3 or movement 3, and so that's what I was like. Oh, I'll get to my base closer, but then I realized, oh, I have to get to his hostage.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's got a bunch of defense tech. Like it was just all bad, but that was a lesson learned.
Yeah.
But so red player, in my opinion, you only want to take if your list is well rounded, like it can handle most things that people are bringing. But if your list is very much skewed to objectives, you want to be blue player. And oftentimes those are a majority of lists, right? For instance, like Rob, your list that you played, you want to play range games. I think Jose would have had a better game if he had got recover, hostage, maybe.
No, I
Intercept
think hostage would have been in the
definitely.
wheelhouse.
But
Yeah.
like it's just my opinion. I'd rather you play my objectives that I'm all around good at versus the table edge. Now, if the table is very much skewed to one side and like, oh, it's got really good heavy cover, and the other side has got light cover mostly, then yes, I agree with you. Then
Well,
maybe you would want to
But
do.
here's the thing. We've discussed, and Rob, I'm not gonna get into table discussion, so don't smite me.
Don't at me.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. We've been to plenty of events, and the complaints are the tables are bad, or the tables are uneven, the tables suck, the tables are terrible, the tables aren't balanced.
But
This
that
little piece of cardboard. So here's my thing. And in all of our experiences, most of us have had terrible table experiences. So how do you offset terrible table experience? You give yourself the edge by giving yourself the table side choice, which, as if we look at like the last LVO we went to, Rob had hellacious tables that he had
What?
some colorful commentary about, but I never had a complaint on any of my tables. Why? Because I was red player in all of my games and I
I
chose
was
all my stuff.
I was red in pretty much all my games as well. Like table side doesn't fix the fact that if you don't like your table, right?
right.
All I can do is
You can
mitigate
It
something
makes
a
it a
little
lot
bit.
less worse.
I guess, yeah.
You have a shitty table and the shitty table side.
So
Yeah.
I can give you 100 reasons of why
So
blue player is better than red player, right? You get stuck with an objective that you're not going to want to play. A good example is they have stats and you have bombing run, right? We're talking about heavy skewed lists that need to be blue player.
I
Red
don't think
player
bombing
lists,
runs like a thing like anymore.
until you play it, right? Like
Competitive stats,
it's
competitive stats
but
like the
if,
last
sure
hey,
meta.
I just want to mention that as somebody who's beaten triple speeders on bombing run,
bombing run. It's not
it's not
it's not a
it's not
thing,
the be
bro.
all
You're
end
you're
all.
you're living
But
in
how
that
many
three out
times
three.
have you beat him? A triple speeder list on bombing
Well,
run.
once, but
Okay, so that's
I've
not
only
a
ever
fair.
played bombing run like 4 times.
Right. So
So
it's not a fair. And like
and
you also have to factor in your opponent's skill, right? Like is they
he was a
playing the
good
best way?
player.
I'm not saying he wasn't, right? I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm just
Well,
saying
I'm
like
what I'm factoring in
what
is
in that
after
game
our
that you played against Bombing Run, do you think I would have made some of those mistakes or was there any mistakes made?
I think in that was at Worlds, and the reason I chose bombing run is because I wanted his speeders away from my dark troopers, trying to score a bombing run rather than trying to kill dark troopers, and that's what he did. So that meant I had a round or two where the dark troopers were not being shot by speeders, and that's why I did it, and it worked. So that's
I'm
to
just
be clear, that was also just a very weird situation because it was gonna be battle lines. And I'm like battle lines, bombing run. I'm actually not that scared of because of that. So because yeah, anyways.
So I'm just gonna say my approach when it comes to game. Yes, it's very much all based on your list, what you're bringing, and what your opponent's bringing. So in this game, for example, now this is all hindsight. Your guys' game, I probably would have been blue player, right? Because Rob got the range, so I need my objectives to get Rob to move to me. And then I would have put in objectives that obviously favor me, not give him key positions. I would have had limited viz in there. I think it was supply drop that you guys played. I don't like supply drop. I think supply drop's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and we played supply drop in our games
well, see,
too.
that's the thing is like my deck is skewed to give in a perfect scenario. We've been over this before. My deck never changes. Like my deck is my deck because my deck I feel in good flops, and by good flops I mean terrible flops for my opponent. Give me essentially flop control because nobody wants to play disarray, nobody wants to play
That's not
supply
true.
drop.
That's not true.
And,
So
to be clear, I would have been way better off in disarray than you are, right?
oh yeah.
And a lot of lists would as well. I don't think putting disarray in a clone And
Well,
any clone list makes you smart because the opponents don't like it. Well, yeah, they don't like it, but you don't like it probably more than
No,
they
no,
don't
no,
like
no.
it,
So
you
here's the
know?
thing. I don't play a traditional clone only clone ball. When I use disarray, it's with my Anakin list that has pikes and their guys that can control their own disarray section. I don't got to worry about it.
but
They don't want orders. They don't need orders.
is that the army strong suit?
Yes, yes, yes. I had the biggest improvement at this year's LVO playing to my game type. Had I not forfeited
So what you're
the
saying
third round,
is,
I'm 4-2.
so you're
I'm
you're
saying in the
saying
next,
that you did better because you had the objectives in your objective deck that you like.
huh?
So you're saying that you think that you did better because you had the objective deck that you like.
Well, yeah. So when I got them
So you
though, it
prefer
was
to be blue
on.
player.
No, no, you're
You just
missing.
said you.
No,
Yeah.
no, you're missing the point. So when I'm at 800, my opponent's 800 and roll for it. Do I get to choose to be blue player? If he wins it, he chooses, right? They chose
Yeah.
red. All my opponents at LVO
So
were
you did better
800.
as blue player.
Huh? I didn't mind it. I
No, no,
didn't
no,
mind
that's
it.
not what I asked. I asked, did you do better as blue player?
Did I do better as blue player?
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like
Why
I
do you
don't
think that
mind
is?
it because I have less objectives in there that people want to play, which if they do play into them, that's fine. I got no problem playing into them. But at the same time, the basic competitive flop for decks is usually what? Major offensive,
No,
battle
no,
lines,
no,
KP.
no, incorrect.
So
That's not what the stats from LVO said.
So
why don't we let JR, why don't you start talking about your thoughts on approaching a game?
okay, so the first thing I want to do
And
when
then
I
and then we'll go back to all of us at the end. Because
yeah,
otherwise it's just gonna be you versus Jose for the next 30 minutes, which is kind of fun and interesting, but I actually kind of want to hear how you approach a game.
so how I approach the game is when I look at my opponent's list, right? That's the first thing I do. It's like, okay, what is my opponent running? How can I take advantage of the things that they suffer in? Like, for instance, your list, your order control. Some way I would try to figure out how do I take advantage of that, of you pulling something that you're not going to want to go with right away, right? And that's going to be a slight opportunity that's going to come where I could punish you. So it's like, okay, that's what I would do. Look at the list. Then I looked up your deck. Do I care if you're blue player or not? Because are we running the same objectives? Is there anything I don't want? And 9 times out of 10, I'll see something in my opponent's deck that I don't want to play. So I'm like, okay, I want to be blue player, despite what the table looks like, right?
And so let's actually go a step backwards from this.
Yeah.
And we'll have Jose answer this after, and then I'll answer on my portion. When you're building a list, do you default to having a bid or having no bid?
Depends on the
Default, as
list.
in, so obviously it depends on the list, but like, would you prefer to play a list that has a bid or that does not
I would prefer to play a list that doesn't have the bid.
have? Okay.
And the reason for that is because that means my list is well rounded and it doesn't care about the objectives, which is the smarter play, in my opinion, because then you can handle most things and you're not scared of most things. Last LVO, I needed to be blue player because of the Ewoks. I needed to get close to them. The first LVO that I won, I was also needed to be blue player because I wanted to play the objectives I played. The one that I ran Shadow Collective in between those years was the one I didn't care about being blue player. I wanted to be red player. Like I
Okay.
didn't care if I was either.
Yeah. And then what about you, Jose? Do you build to have a bid or to no bid in general?
No, no bid, no bid, no
Okay.
bid. Because, like I said, I mean, to be honest, the two games I lost at LVO, I was blue player.
Now, for the two of you, will you sacrifice list making decisions to force 800 points? That is to say, there's a 2-point upgrade you want, but that puts you at 799, so you put a 3-point upgrade. Will you sacrifice
No,
effectiveness to get to 800?
no, I wouldn't.
Jose?
No, because well, see the thing is with my go-tos with certain things like that, I'm always off by like 4 points, for 800. So it's simple. That's just adding one more thing to a phase two, or adding like two recons, or adding, there's
Yeah.
plenty of filler, and clones have all the upgrade slots to put anything you want to fill that. So
Or
no.
you just change a Z6 into a mortar or do
I
this to
always,
that,
yeah,
right?
I always feel like if I have 2 more points to play with, it's just extra
Yeah.
goodness.
Okay, sorry. Back to Jared. I didn't mean to interrupt too
Yeah.
heavily. I just figured that was kind of important to sort of hash out.
Yeah. No, then like I said, then after I see what my opponent's got, his battle deck, if I have a strong feeling that I need to be blue player, I'll take a look at the table and decide, do I really want to double down on blue player? Like, is this just all bad if one area that's just gonna get deleted? Um, and yeah, that's generally how I approach it. And then turn zero is I'm definitely gonna try to go to the objectives that I want, even in my opponent's deck versus my deck if I'm red player at that point. But yeah, it's very
Yeah.
determined on your list.
And so how do you do that, right? Like how do you try to get the objectives that you want on their flop? Like what are your tactics for that?
My tactic is to okay, so like we can go to the Shadow Collective Blizzard Force battle that I had with Kyle
Yeah,
when he
sure.
had his flop. Like I was just all bad. All the objectives I wanted on the turn or that I wanted were up front. Like he just had to ban two and he got his objective, which I think was breakthrough. And then and breakthrough into bombing run. In that situation,
Yeah.
you got to go for a condition. And I think I forced a condition that I think favored me. Because
Okay.
I knew that he was gonna ban the first two objectives because it was gonna give him breakthrough. And those
Yeah.
were the better choice. And so in those situations, I think if you're gonna lose either row, I think the most important one that you do lose is if it's objective, you try to go for a deployment or a condition that favors you. If you know that they want to go to an objective that you can't stop, like they're just going to get to it. Because I wasn't going to play on bomber run. I'd rather take breakthrough than bomber run. Yeah, that's what I would do. If you can't get, because I don't think you can get to an objective that you want when you're red player. You just pick the lesser of two evils, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So going into my own stuff, it's kind of interesting because there's something that I always do now that since Worlds, it's something I picked up at Worlds. The
Mhm.
first thing I like to do when I walk up to a table to play is I take out my range ruler and I start measuring things before anything. Before I look
Illegal.
at their deck. No, it's not.
I know I'm pounding with
Yeah.
you.
But no, before I do anything, it's okay, where is the center? What will be the key? It's where are the intercepts? And then it's what buildings do I think are going to
So,
matter? What
question: you're doing that while your timer's running?
yeah.
Really?
Really? Yeah,
Uh,
that's wild, dude.
I
I
would
mean, it
spend chess clock
works.
time on it too, right? Like I'm not spending 10 minutes doing this, mind you, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
doing this pretty quickly. I'm not doing fully perfectly measuring stuff, right? What I'm doing is I'm checking stuff. Just like, all right, just so I know, okay, key positions is in this side's favor. This is in this side's favor, right? And I don't do this like and then ignore my opponent, right? I'm doing this while I'm talking because there's always that first couple minutes where you're talking with your opponent, right? You're both kind of like starting to take stuff out. Like table side might change. You're not really taking stuff out yet, right? You're kind of saying, hey, this is my list. Hey, this is my list, right? And while I'm doing that, I'm like starting to measure stuff, you know. And then at that point, I talk to the opponent and see who has blue. I am a believer in hitting 800 no matter what for 99% of lists. I will sacrifice list decisions to get there, right? Like if I have a list and it's at 799 points, that list is dead to me instantly, right then and there, because tiebreakers too important. And maybe it doesn't
Are
matter
they?
that the way I play, probably not realistically,
Mhm.
but going into a game knowing that I have an advantage, they have to start doing things, especially when you're playing the range for sit back and chill gun line, like I typically play, even when I'm before range troopers, right? That is good. And that's something you kind of want. Um, because I play worse when I am forced to be the aggressor. Right. Whenever put in a spot where I have to start moving forward and doing stuff, I play worse because I get frazzled with that. Right. I'm much happier just sort of sitting back and letting my range do what it needs to.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you there. After all the time that we played, I don't think you're a defense player. I think you're an aggressive player. I think you're comfortable at the range band because your opponent can't get return shots. But in all my games I play with you, you play very aggressively. You get way
which
too,
I do.
yeah.
But it interestingly enough, like I didn't like move forward towards an enemy. Like I did like 3 times the entire weekend,
Do you feel
right?
that do you feel that way because those were objectives that you didn't need to?
Partially, but also partially because I had the range and they had to push into me, right? And because I mean I did play key twice, right? So that helps.
Yeah.
And neither of those games really went to round 6. Well, the first one did, but by round 6, I had more stuff than he did, and then the other one, he rage quit. So, but yeah, so maybe that's it. But yeah, I like defaulting to the safety of tiebreak. Though I do agree with you. I think that I need to learn patience a little more so I can better make use of it.
Mhm.
Especially with some of the lists I've played in the past, where it's like I've made. See, you say that, but it's like I look back to some of the games I've played, and I'm like, a lot of the games I lose are the ones where I'm too passive and I'm not doing enough. Right against you,
Me specifically?
against you specifically, I play more aggressively, and it's probably for the worse, right? Like
That's a big mistake,
Well,
bro.
why do you play more
the last time we
aggressively?
played, I played too passively and you won. So I don't know. And we can get into this. This discussion could take 2 hours. So I'm just
JR's
gonna leave
dice have
this.
to have a cataclysmic meltdown because you're so versatile, bro. Like if I'm hit, like I know what Rob's talking about because I've played you like full blown W key aggressive and I've been annihilated. And I've played you full blown passively with full control and I've eaten it in the last 5 or 6, turn 5 or 6. So like it's just you, dude. You like unless your dice melt down, like you're so good at flopping like that and attacking from a different situation that whether it's aggressive or
And
passive, like it's a mountain when you're playing you, dude.
yeah, and we're a little off tangent here, so
Yeah,
we can talk more about that later. We'll call that the Why
free
JR
JR.
is a good player podcast.
I also think, and I think you said it, Jose, it's just like, I think if you're a blue player, you can afford to be more versatile, right? Because you have to play my objective. You have to play my game.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think like what objectives are there that you're like you want to force them to play your objective.
Well, a good example is
Yeah.
in your list or in Jose's list, like if limited viz is in the beginning of the flop, you don't want that, Rob.
Yeah,
You got to spend a turn banning lim viz, and that might either be both your bans or your first ban. So like that gives Jose more of a reason to pick an objective to force you to be like, oh shit, what do I do? Do I ban the objective that he really wants or limited viz? Like so that's
I just with I just
Limited
don't
Viz
think
gives
there's
Vader too much wiggle room, in my
well, there's
opinion.
also that, but
That's like you never take limited Viz against Vader.
yeah, you do. It's specifically you because you have Anakin and Obi-Wan.
that's fair. With your list, you do.
And you have Delta Squad.
Mm.
Um, but either
Delta
way,
Squad ass.
so the first thing I do is I start measuring, then I see what their list is, and I always ask what their deployments are. If I get the if I get the choice, which I rarely do. Usually the first thing I do is I show them my deployments and my condition deck or objective deck, sorry. Um, and I always lace it with poison pills, right? Things that I'm like, they don't want to play this period. So that we just don't, right?
Yeah.
So basically things like sabotage, things like minefield, things where it's like the opponent's like, I don't want to deal with this. But I mean, in this version, my objective deck is like, I think it's supply drop, because people don't like supply drop because it takes a bunch of time. War weary, limit, hostile environment, and then something else, and it's like it's all stuff that people don't want to have to deal with, you know. And so they're more likely to stay blue. And then that lets me choose table side, which I think matters quite a bit. I don't think that it's the be all and end all. I think in most tables it's not the only thing that matters, or even the thing that matters the most. But I'm more comfortable saying, okay, I want to be on this side than trying to hope that we get my objectives, because The other thing about red is they get the last flip. So it's
Mhm.
not even like, oh, we get to play my objectives since I'm blue. Like, yeah, we get your deck, but there's no list that has 4 perfect objectives that I'm not good at either. Right. And so I get the last flip. So there's a good chance that I can make it so that we're still playing something I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. There's
Like
not
this,
enough
I
list
just
diversity
if
and
there were if there
competitive
were
with
more
objectives.
or if there were more objectives, this would be a different
Mm-hmm.
story. If
Well,
there
that's
were
the
if there were
good.
12 objectives, oh, then blue would be way better. Because now all of a sudden we're talking, right, I'm only good at like 6 of these 12, and none of the 6 I'm good at are in this deck, so I'm fighting an uphill battle all game.
Yeah, and
That'd be bad.
that's the
but
thing. Like like I agree with Rob. Like you build for 800 and you make your deck to where if you have to go to your deck, it's not bad. But like when I don't know, Rob might have different opinion here because he did Worlds and he did Kubla Khan, but like where was I going with this? Sorry, I had a brain fart. Is that I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
Um
I feel like you guys need to practice blue player more. I feel
no,
like
no, no.
Sure. And that's a fair assessment.
because like even those the 4 objectives still favor the blue player, right? Everything in that deck is going to favor the blue player.
But what
I,
that's
I
what I was
don't
getting
I
at. What
don't
are they?
disagree, but what where I disagree and where like unlike Jose who has contradictory opinions on this, what I think is that the blue doesn't matter as much because it's like most of the time I can either make whatever their deck is work so that it's not that bad and that the table side is a better advantage for me, or it just there's nothing in their deck anyways where it's like, oh, this is super bad. Or at the very worst, at the very, very worst, there's one thing or 2 things in the deck where it's like, I really don't want that. Right.
Well,
It's like, and then all I do is I have the final ban. It's like the one thing I don't want, gone. There's 2
and
things
that's
I don't want. Well, then I get one thing I don't want. I'll live with it. You know what I mean?
well that's what I was getting at. Sorry, before I lost my train of thought. Is that in at least in all the competitive events I've played in and like the hot, sweaty competitive games I've played in, I've never seen a blue deck that's not mine that it's like I haven't seen this 1,000 times already. I've seen sabotage, I've seen KP, I've seen intercept. Yeah, you'll have that one off in there, but it's never like that's the whole thing in these in competitive events. Like you're never going to see anything so that you haven't seen or played 1,000 times.
Well,
So if you get table edge and you're going to
just
play
because
major offensive sabotage and clear conditions, and oh well, it is what it is. Like
I
I've
mean,
played
just
that a
because
thousand
you've played
times.
it though, doesn't mean it's better for you to play that, right? You know, does that make sense? Right? Just because you know how to play it doesn't mean your list is good at playing it. Like you may be good at playing it, but if your list doesn't complement that well, then it doesn't matter. So
I don't know. If you have if I don't know, I look at my list that I take to all my events as like an all rounder list. So it's kind of like I'll play whatever. So it is like I don't know. That's just me. Like I don't like specialty lists. Like granted, like you can do like like 4 super commandos, or you can go crazy with like 4 Moldalorians, or bombing run and 3 bikes, or blizzard and 4 bikes. Like I don't ever get into those skew specific lists.
yeah. So
Because I feel
then
like that pigeonholes you more than anything. Yeah, you'll have some favorable matchups, but you run into, Ollie's double bust Thunder Road thing, and it's
Fury
like, yeah,
Road.
you've ridden this list all the way here just to get shit on by this one thing you didn't see coming. Like I don't know. I specialist lists you either die by them or you get or you rail with them, and it's like
So
I'd rather just have an all rounder list.
yeah. So then why JR do you think it's so important that we practice blue players some more? And let's not talk about Jose and I. Let's say generally, like why do you think players in general, viewers should practice being blue player?
Your battle deck. I think your battle deck matters more than you guys think it does. Like, don't get me
Oh,
wrong, there's not that many objectives and conditions and deployments, but it's important that you get what you want. And like, granted, not everyone's list not going to be bad at my objectives that I picked in them, but it's kind of like if I got payload, hemmed in, and limited viz, which one are you gonna ban first, right? Like if that's what it was looking on your last ban, you probably, in my if my
On
opinion,
the last ban,
yeah,
I mean, it 100% depends on what's on the other side of those,
true, right?
right? And what you're playing and all
Yeah,
that, right? Like if we're talking, like
but like,
clearly we're not keeping Limviz payload, or we're not keeping hemmed in payload, like clearly.
right,
So Limviz is just staying in, whether I like it or not, right? And
right.
I think this is probably the worst case scenario, by the way,
Oh
is
yeah,
that there's
yeah, I
Limviz
agree.
hemmed in payload. That is they got the best possible outcomes. So,
Hmm.
but what I do is I look at those deployments that are after hemmed in, and I say, how bad is payload on this for me?
Hmm.
And in some maps, it might be completely awful. You lose the game instantly. And in other matchups, it might not matter at all. And I'd say, all right, well, I'll just swap deployments. In other matchups and maps, it may be all right. Well, I don't want to play him, or it may be I don't want to play payload at all, but I'm okay with payload hemmed in. So I just swap that out. And you know what? Hemmed in, Lim Viz, I get to do what I want basically turn two anyways. Like you're gonna be in
Not
range,
not in
but
their list, right? Because you want to be shooting at range 4, turn 1 and 2, it's 2 and then 3 ranges.
they want to be shooting at range 4, but they can shoot at range 3, right? Especially if it's a you move in, then I shoot you, and then situation.
Yeah. Like I said, I just think that like it's better to make my opponent sweat on my objectives as opposed to their objectives and then pick a better table side. Because the
Yeah.
way the cover rules work right now is like pretty much everyone's got heavy cover, right? Like that's one thing we can all agree on table making is like there's pretty good cover on table making, right?
I just think it matters not necessarily about heavy cover, more so just what your LOS blocking looks like and what shape it takes. Because even on tables you wouldn't like, there's still LOS blockers. They're
Sure.
just not where you want them. So it's like, all right, how do I deal with this? Where
Yeah.
would I rather be able to stand? And that's the key part there.
Like my biggest curiosity in your guys' game is like, what would you have done, Rob, on intercept?
That's in against Jose,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. I would have just
I
treated it
don't.
like
The game
key.
doesn't change.
I would have treated it like key.
See,
Yeah,
and
it
that's and
doesn't
that's and I
change.
think that's your biggest mistake in my opinion, because like that's a lot of the times how I win my games against you is I go for the early like win condition, and then hold you off until turn 6, right? Because like
Uh
if you don't make a move to the middle on intercept, and I got it, that's 2-1. Then 4 comes, and if you still didn't make, that's 4-2, and then now you got to get all 3.
so in this, I'm not saying in every game, but to
Mm,
mind you, I would ignore the middle. I do think, by the way, I played both of my EXT games at Worlds were intercepts. I
mm,
think I think in both cases I misplayed intercept, and that's why I lost the game. Like if I'd played the objective slightly better. Like in the
mm,
first game, the problem was that I let his BXs kill my storm, so I didn't have somebody go on my third point.
mm.
Which the idea was if they're shooting at the storms, they're not killing the dark trooper. So I was okay with that. So I
Yeah.
was kind of leaving them in not great positions on purpose, but he got a shot or two more than I thought he could. Um, and then in the second game, I literally just fucked up and I thought I had an extra activation on my dark trooper to move into a point that I didn't. So, but I agree. I do think my objective play needs to get better. I did better at this tournament, right? Like
Nice.
I was both. It was KP and hostage, but I made better plays at keeping control of the KP, even though I didn't. Right, even though I wasn't scoring it early on.
Mm,
But in Jose's game, that game because Jose would then be forced to move to the middle, he was already playing like it was intercepts.
right.
Right,
Mhm.
he was already moving in. He was in the center of the board on round 1,
Mm,
and he would have
Yeah.
scored that intercept round 2. And it's like I'm not going to push my whole army into an entire clone army if I don't have to.
mm.
So in that game, it's definitely putting me at a disadvantage because now I have to score around 6. But in that game, my game plan is still plink, 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 plink until I get the critical mass and he just crumbles.
Right. That's why I think it's important to be blue players because I don't like key position. And the reason why I don't like key position is you're waiting to turn 6. It's very slow and boring, and it very much favors gun lines. I would agree with that. It very much does. Um,
I mean,
go, most of the other objectives don't, right? They finish
yeah.
before turn 6.
The difference between a like a hyper competitive key positions and just a normal key positions is incredible.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
hyper competitive key positions is the most boring game you've ever played.
Mhm.
Whereas
Mhm.
a normal key positions is probably just elimination, basically.
Yeah.
So but yeah. I think we're going in a circle. And I think it's been about 2 hours, so we might want to wrap it up
Yeah.
here.
Honestly, though, you guys make valid points on red player. I just think there is some leeway to being blue player. And like in my opinion, though, if you're building a well-rounded list, it doesn't matter. You should probably go red player. Like try to get that 800 points if you can. If you're going for a skewed list that like favors melee or something like that, or
You
two,
need
Of
blue.
course.
two
And
pluses, you want blue.
and
that's what,
none of us disagree with that, right?
yeah.
But
yeah.
you need it to my the way I would put it is if you are going to play blue player, you need to be able to defend that when I push you against that, right?
Okay.
Whereas like red player is like the default, blue is the I'm doing this for a reason.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
And I would agree with you on that. It's like you're very much need to get blue player because of X, Y, and Z. If you don't have those, then
Yeah.
be red player. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that opinion, then table side would be more important at that point.
And it's not even just table side, it's also just winning the tiebreaker because you win because you're just winning the tiebreaker, and it's being able to have the last flop.
Yeah.
Right. It's not even table side at that point. Red is not all about table side. It's because you can have a bid and be red. You can choose red. It just rarely happens.
Yeah, it's true.
I think one last thing I do want to say, and I without starting another conversation, hopefully, is one thing none of us talked about when we're talking about approaching the game that is super important that you have to do is talk to your opponent about every single piece of terrain. Every single one. If there's
I don't
anything you want
care.
to say,
You should.
about any, or if there's, you need to talk about it, because the one piece of terrain you don't talk about is going to come up in the middle of the game.
Literally, my game with Kyle, like it was just like, you know, and honestly, this could be a topic for another video.
And we could talk that,
yeah. Is that I feel like there should be set rules for terrain pieces and everything, but that's another conversation.
I open up the map question. I'm sorry.
That's
you did.
another conversation. We're not going to go there. It's just it's frustrating because I've had opponents where I'm saying, "Hey, let's treat this. This is just
and the reason
that's light cover," and my opponent's like, "Nah, this is heavy cover." It's like
the reason it matters to do it before the game is because it's something that should inform your decision if you are a red player, or that should inform your opponent's decision when they're a red player. And if you assume something, you may be wrong, right? And it's happened. We all have stories, right? Seth, the guy who made the rules or is on the rules forum, right? We were playing and he had a piece of terrain next to him and he's like, he tried to walk over with a normal move and he's like, that's a normal move. I'm like, I'm like, I know I'm just sounding like a dick because I'm your opponent, but I would call that difficult, right? Like it was something that I was like, it looks difficult. And he's like, well, no, that's not. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like locally we'd make it difficult. And so we called a judge. And the judge made a call. And it doesn't even matter which call he made because he had to make that call. And that messed with Seth and his decision making, right? He did end up going with me, and that matters because now Seth can't do what he wanted to do, right? And so you should talk about every piece of terrain. But yeah, that's all I got for today.
I don't want to though. Like
it's so annoying, I know, but it is what it is.
It takes the fun out of the game, in my opinion.
No, yeah, well, we can talk about this. We can talk about why we don't like it and why it's gamey. I'll defend it and say that it's a necessary evil, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah,
we'll leave that.
We'll talk about that next week or something. Yeah. All right. I could go off a tangent right now. Let's save our thought.
Once a month. It's
a straight up biased take.
Because in my opinion, I know kids.
No, all right.
That's the biggest problem.
And the recording right there. Let's talk about this next week. Let's talk about this next week.
All right.
Have a great week, everybody. This is
guys. Don't forget about
VetFest.
July
13th.
Don't forget. 3 commandos is too many commandos. Just use Delta.
That's next week as well.
Yep.
We need to talk about rain troopers and commandos next week as well.
Yeah.
No commandos is the correct answer.
No. Okay. They're great.
All right, boys. Thank you guys for joining me.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, listeners.